Welcome to Center Heist Productions. It is July 13th, 2024. Special little episode for you, just pertaining to some stories out there kind of make you want to address things that are going on within quiet Montreal. Okay, first, please hit like, subscribes, muchly appreciated. This is the channel where you get honesty and factual information. I don't run off of gossip crap, which I see a lot of people jumping on, and they'll put on the big screen. Ooh, this could have major implications. And then you see the sappy story of a bullshit gossip story that was made in Slovakia. Okay, that should have red flags all over it, and we as fans need to be smarter. Are you going to support something like that just wants to put out and yak about a bunch of bullshit? Can't do it. Not on this channel. It won't happen. Will we address it? Yes, because some hands make you address it. But this, again, is projecting, in the latest projections coming out of ESPN, some of the sports networks that are projecting the next NHL season and projecting where Montreal's going to stand, and they have us in a very bad place, actually sliding down to the bottom two. And I got to be quite honest, this is going to be a funny episode. I agree with them. If, as it stands, this team stays as is, it's going to be a rough year. And it's not a knock against the youngsters. It's just going to be because we haven't improved the caliber of the top forward group. And it's going to be impactful because we can't keep running with fourth liners. I don't, very few third liners on the team. They're more like a bunch of fourth liners. Well, you got a few third liners. I suppose you could say Armia, Newhook are third liners. After that, it gets tricky. The rest of them seem to be a bunch of fourth liners. Sorry to say that. But with that being said, we're going to project and have you give you our projection and what we think with ESPN and those other sports columns writing that projection. I totally, as Montreal stands, because things didn't fall the way I think a lot of us thought. We didn't get that big trade. We got a trade, but not a big trade. And I was glad we used the second draft pick to get Hage, to tell you the truth, because if the right trade isn't there, don't force it. And I think that was wise of Hughes. And I like where Hughes and Gordon are going. Now, just to rate us very quickly in the draft, we did wonderful. First round, let's be honest, is where you tend to, and sorry, I got to get rid of this cap because I'm not a hat person, especially baseball hats. So sorry, I have to get rid of that. So in the draft, let's be honest, people rate more so off the first round. First round, I give us an A+. After that, we didn't have anything in the second. But after that third round onward, maybe an A. I think we did address some size scenarios and just beefed up certain areas with bigger players and different styles, some grit. And I think Hage was a great pickup to have. But unfortunately, I think when July 1st happened, we were all thinking there's going to be a major signing Montreal and make out of these veterans. And there was rumor that we were dealing with Marchessault, and it just couldn't come together just because he wanted term, Montreal wanted shorter term. And they were right to stick to their guns. I'm very proud of them for not biting on a lot of these free agents, because most of these guys wanted extended contracts long term, because they probably know it's pretty much their last half-decent contract. So Montreal was wise, but it sets us back, because who we were after originally was Necas, who was the only guy that fit. That's not going to happen now. I mean, when you look at Carolina losing Gensel and Trelane, and then Necas applying for his contract, whatever you want to call that. I forget the word. Anyway, you can't offer sheet for him. So that presents a different realm. They know they need them now after those players. So that's going to change. The priority for Carolina is going to change. That takes Nate just out of the picture, unless there's some miracle trade that will involve 3 or 4 teams. That's the only way I could see that, but I still don't think it's going to happen. I just think now he'll have a more important role with those guys gone. So with that being said, good on Hughes. I commend them for the biggest thing we did, which was wise, was wrap up Slavkovsky, and that was good. So that was a good signing. Hats off to Slav. He easily could have demanded more than he did, because really, with what he's showing, even though it's early, he's definitely showing for long term wise that he probably is more going to be more productive than Suzuki and Caulfield. He's going to be more of a weapon, let's say, with his whole game. So to me, easily could have got 8 or just above the 8 million if he wanted to be pushing it, but he showed just how much of a team guy he was and accepted. And that's the type of character you want. I can't say enough on what he did there. Just not a problem. He still had no issue with Suzuki and Caulfield making more than him, and that shows great character, good for the culture. So with that being said, that was a huge signing. So that needed to be dealt with. We know Gooley's coming up, and everybody's probably worried that it's going to speak volumes where what Gooley, hopefully he sees reality as well, because yes, if he could stay healthy, he would be in Sanderson from Ottawa there, a category of a contract. He would be. But because he's so darn injury prone, I think he falls and has to accept. He's got to be able to accept a contract for the time being. Maybe it's a bridge contract. Or he just bites the bullet and goes long term at a lesser cost. That's his choice. But hopefully he'll have that same mindset as Slav for the team first. But to me, that takes him out of the Sanderson type contract because of his injuries. I think he drops and falls into the 5 million range. And to me, that would be what I foresee. Now, again, this is all my opinion, but we're addressing certain topics. And then, we've got Jack Eye and Marin who were given their qualifying offers, and they'll be on the team, so that's not an issue. Now, when it comes into that, so like I say, I do foresee the offseason is not over. I do see us, actually, I originally thought we were going to move up in the standings to that 8th, 10th area, but because some of the bottom feeders got some real good veteran talent, now, of course, it's all on paper. Can it gel? That's the question. But it does look like because of so much action with the bottom feeders like Utah, looks deadly now. Teams like that, even San Jose and Chicago, really, I think they moved up their programs. And to me, I do see us sliding if nothing changes, because we can't just run off of Kirby Dach alone. Yes, he will present probably gaining us, maybe. No, but now that's with teams not improving. Maybe a 10-point difference in the standings. 6 to 10, I would say, if he could stay healthy. But that's a huge if with his history. And I love the guy to death. He's one of the guys I would, when it comes to those 4 names I mentioned, 3 of them I would love to have their, buy a jersey if they could stay healthy. And that's Jack Eye, Gooley, and Dach. They're in that caliber, that they're that important of pieces. But there's 4 players. There are 3 of them. And then Newhook. You got to look. If Dach, this is going to be a determining factor this season coming up on all 4 players. Can they stay healthy? Because they can make a big difference in a team. We know that. There's no doubt. Caden Gooley, if he can stay healthy, is the number 1 defenseman, and there's nobody close to vying for that spot from him. No. he hasn't even untapped his offensive side totally yet. He's shown some signs. And whether he'll need an offensive defenseman with him or he untaps more of his offensive side and he just gets. There's many things that could happen here. You could end up seeing Goalie in the future with Ryan Backer or Mailloux. I clearly see that. It's going to be one of the two. I think it's going to be, if Goalie untaps more offensive side, you will get Ryan Backer with him. If he doesn't, you'll have Mailloux moving up in that spot for the time being until somebody else comes and has gotten more. I don't see anybody else in their process on the right side as being higher than those two, to be honest. So I do see one of them being a first pairing and the second guy being the second pairing defenseman. So, and I do think Lane Hutson is going to make a great addition to this team. However, I think you got to realize he's not Mike Matheson. He will fill that role where he's going to be better for the power play than Mike Matheson, because Mike Matheson, to me, doesn't do it for the power play. He was just all we really had to look at, and they didn't really. I don't think they played enough with Jack Guy's shot, using him on the power play, and I think they need to tap into that. But I do think Lane Hutson can be the puck mover at the point and really pick up. That might be one of the missing pieces to get that power play moving in the right direction. So I wouldn't mind seeing a 3 forward, 2 defensemen first unit at all, because I think this could work really well with just the number 1 line, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield. And, you could always use Doc as a rotation in there, right? But I do see that Lane Hutson will bring us that quarterback type player we're looking for at the point. I think he's going to be a way better play creator on the power play. I think he's going to move the needle there. And I think we should be utilizing Jack Guy's bomb of a shot, sort of the Weber type bomb. If we did that, I think we'll have a really good first unit, but coaching is going to have to kick into realizing that as well. Because sometimes I don't think they see the whole bonuses of what some of these players have, the talents. So with that being said, that's what I think needs to happen there. Right now, though, if we don't make a move, this team, I'm going to have to say I agree. Yes, we had a great draft. Unfortunately, that doesn't make our team better until the future. It is going to be good once it kicks in, but because of that, for now is going to be sliding a bit. So can we improve our bottom 6? I do think we can. I do think you could pick up a Sprong type player. One of the Taylor Johnson. Even both of them wouldn't bother me to get. Just for the bottom 6, and you could rotate them into up the line, up here and there, sort of like you're doing with Newhook. I don't think that would be a bad thing. I think that would definitely improve your 3rd, 4th line. However, we do have youngsters coming up, because I would like to see and think that Roy could be, he may be a 3rd liner this year. I do think he has the potential to be 2nd liner, though. And I'd like to see them try him and Doc. I'd actually like to see, I think that 2nd unit would be really good with Roy, because Roy and Armia had a chemistry going on there. So I'd like to see Roy, Armia, and Doc tried for the 2nd line, because I think you might have something you could really, with 2 guys on the wings that already have a chemistry, and Doc we know is super talented, you'd have a serious 2nd line. I'm sure you would. And I think Doc has so much untapped that he was unable to push his development last year due to that massive injury. And he's going to have his work cut out to make up that time. But I do think he actually can push Suzuki, because he's got so much else to his game, creativity-wise and body structural-wise, forcing, that people can't contain him, controlling the puck, then I think he brings a different element, and he's got a lot of talent. So I think, if he can untap, the only thing Doc has to untap is the circle. The rest of he can play the center position, no problem everywhere else. I mean, his defensive play was for me, when he was playing, was well beyond any of the guys in the front line. I think his defensive game was way better than anybody on that first line. He come back and he always knew how to get the puck out. And I think Slav is starting to show signs of that, but he's nowhere near close Doc. But I think he could be going in the same direction as Doc in the defensive zone. But Doc has got it already, and if you ever watch how many jams when he was playing, he got Montreal out of in the defensive zone. It was exceptional, really. He just has to stay healthy. So really, crucial thing for moving forward, those 4 players, this is the year. If any of them can't stay healthy this season, you're going to have to put them on the list to make a move. That's bad, because we got a number 1 defenseman for our future, which is Cooley. It would be awful, because it will set us back if they can't stay healthy, those 4, because they all got super talent, and they're big cogs for our future plans. So that would be, you would have to start over to find another number 1 defenseman. If say we can't stay healthy, you might want to move them and rethink and finding another number 1 defenseman. So that puts you back in the rebuild. Same thing with Jack-Eye, what Jack-Eye brings to me, and I still think Jack-Eye could very well be a second pairing defenseman. I still think there's a lot of potential offensively that he hasn't even tapped into yet. He's still got so much learning compared to the rest of his defensemen, because he's really not used to systems. But I think once he keeps growing, as he showed how well he improved coming back from Laval, I think he's a third pairing for sure. We know that. But he could definitely push for a second pairing, I think, once he's untapped. And he brings that element that no one else has. So he's that important. So again, here's the second guy. If he's injured this year, you're going to have to think about him as well. Like, can we hold on to these guys that are what good are they going to be in the long term if they're always getting injured? Then you got Doc. Doc, as we know, who's probably the one that's in the worst shape out of the group for injuries. It's got to be this. If he gets hurt again, you're going to have to move on. You're going to be looking for your second. And that's probably good why they drafted Hage, because he got 2 years there to buy some time. Because he's going to be no doubt in my mind, top 6 forward. I don't think he's going to be a first liner. I think he'll be a second line. But if Doc doesn't pan out, he'll be your center. And I think that may be what they were thinking when they went with him. But either way, if Doc does manage to stay healthy, he's going to be it's between him and Hage for your future center on that second line. Hage, though, I can see him being a winger with Doc. And that would be quite something in the future, too. Imagine a Doc, Hage, Wall line. Although, can't forget Demidov, can we? Because we know darn well, in my books, I think when Demidov comes, it becomes Slafkovsky and whoever the first line center is, which is probably Suzuki for the right now, from what we can see. But can you imagine Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Demidov? Because Caulfield's going to move to that second line. When Demidov comes, I'm convinced that will be the guy, and he'll be a great second liner. And you can always rotate him in when you need a switch up every now and then, right? So you got that option as well. I mean, just imagine, he won't do bad with Doc and Waugh or Doc and Hage, right? So that's how you can look at that. Again, I think Waugh, you'll probably see him start on the third line, but he does. Although then again, Montreal's in such bad shape. Would shock to see me to see him on the second line, because I do think, for the time being, he could be that guy until guys like Hage move up. in the system, but that's time. That's 2 years at least. So with that being said, we got a good future, but right now it's kind of scary because I originally, like I just told you, I thought we'd be eighth, move up to eighth or 10th from the spot. And I think that's all we should want, even the executive should want, is just to see progression. But since these bottom feeders really took advantage of the off season, on paper it looks like they moved ahead of us. Um, Utah, San Jose, and Chicago really took some big steps there, and even Anaheim, they're a better team than what they seem to. I don't know how they keep falling in the bottom five anyway. That kind of blows my mind. But they're gonna move out of that group very soon. But with that being said, if we don't have that change, top six addressed, we are going to slide, which I didn't think. I wasn't expecting it. So I think this is going to be a rough season. But I am holding. I mean, I can't see Gordon, and he was making that comment that they're going to be improving and moving towards it. You're not. I think they over exaggerated where Montreal would be coming into fighting for a playoff spot. No, we're not that far ahead. We are in the right. I think we're doing a better job than Ottawa is doing, but we're still behind Ottawa. But we're doing a better job. I think we're doing a better job even than Detroit, but we're behind them. I think we're doing a better job than Buffalo, but we're behind them because they're farther advanced in their rebuild. So, with all of those teams making such massive moves, if Montreal does nothing, which they were wise to not pull the trigger and be roped into it, because the previous regime would have grabbed one of those players and you would have been stuck with a contract the last 2 or 3 years you were stuck with them not producing. So wise on Hughes. You got to look at this clearly. Yes, it doesn't look good where we stand. It won't hurt us to get another good draft. So got to think of that as well. I just think that comment that they made, our executive, unless they're planning something massive, which I will say, I just said, remember what I said, I expect another big trade with a lot of moving parts, and I do expect it to be a 3-team type of trade. I think, and if we're not smart enough to utilize, as much as we hate to see Matheson go, he is by far our most valuable player. It's not even close. Well, especially, yeah, he is. We don't want to touch the core. Now, like I say, on defense, he's by far our best player. You don't want to go near the core players like that. So we're not including them in that. But while the iron's hot, if a team wants Matheson, you have to pull the trigger if you want that second line winger, a top 6 player. You have to pull the trigger because Matheson's only going to start receding, dropping down. He's not going to duplicate. This was an outstanding season, but it's easy to look outstanding in Montreal. We're that low in the quality right now, right? Yes, we have a promising future, but you can look like a star where he wouldn't be doing that anywhere else. Anywhere else, he's a second pairing defenseman, to be honest. Straight up, that Mike Matheson looks like he's a first pairing in Montreal because we're so bad and so young. Although, don't get me wrong, those young defensemen are doing a good job. They just got to gain the touches and the time they need, and they're going to be something else. But you can look like a star. A lot of players, and that's why you've seen the drastic change in his numbers. But while the iron's hot, if you don't jump on this, you're not going to get back in a package what you could gain for him, even come trade deadline. Mark my words, he will lose some value, and teams will be a little fussier, right? So while the iron's hot, if somebody is wanting that injected into their lineup, I think you got to jump on it because you can go and get a veteran. You're not going to get a veteran that skates like him. That's for damn sure. Has those numbers, I don't think. But you don't need that. technically you got enough offensive punch back there anyway. And if you get a top 6 player for the front line, they can make up that difference as well of what you lose with Matheson gone. So you got to think that way. However, I think you got to pull the trigger because you can get a veteran defenseman that can be there to mentor these youngsters. David Savard, we're hearing a lot of interest in him, and I can see David there till trade deadline. And there's nothing wrong with that because I don't know how much his stock is going to move. I think he can still be valuable to somebody. But if somebody wants him, and you can get something, I mean, I'm not talking about third onward draft picks. That's just not worth doing right now to trade for that. You need somebody viable for the top 6. You're almost needing to have getting more, even if you have to throw a pick with him to get a good top. Again, you make that move. As good as he is as a mentor for the defense, I'd like to see him there in Montreal, him to stay put just till the trade deadline. But if you're getting a good offer, you got to jump on it. It's evident we moved Kovacevic. I knew would move at some point. However, I thought Matheson and Savard would be moved first because he was younger, and he's definitely a third pairing defenseman. That's a good steady one. But we knew that was going to come within 2 years anyway. We just did it sooner. So that shows you they're definitely thinking of Mailloux and Reinbacher coming up. And of course, this is the year for Justin Barron. If he's not traded before the season, which he's had enough chances, but if they give him one more chance, and it sounds like they are giving him one more chance, he has really got to fight for that spot, that third pairing defense spot, because he's behind the 8 ball. Out of all the guys on this defense corps, he's the one guy that's behind the 8 ball. It's do or die for him. Can he help another team? Yes, he can, but we're looking at Montreal's system. Really, I see Reinbacher and Mailloux turning out better than him, both of them. This year, I kind of think Mailloux might be the guy to jump in, and he probably will jump in as a second pairing defenseman for the time being. He could do third as well and progress to the second pairing as the season goes. But I think this is do or die, and I do think, mark my words, we're going to talk more about some of the stupid rumors that have been mentioned by a lot of podcasts saying, oh, this has major implications, and you guys biting on it. Don't bite on garbage. They're just biting on some dumb, the rumor, we got rumors coming out of Slovakia. That source is not good. Did that come from the Montreal Canadiens? Did that come from the Winnipeg Jets? That's what you got to think. No, it did not. So that tells you immediately that that's BS. So I'm going to make a follow-up here with talking about the BS rumors we're hearing. But do expect a massive trade before opening night of the season, a Petrie-type trade. And if not, I'd be shocked to see a one-for-one with, other part, 3-piece. Well, that could happen too, but I more so see a 3-team trade coming. Another Petrie-type style trade before the season. Market, you saw it here on Center Heist Productions. Thank you for following. Tell your friends and family to follow. Hit the likes and subscribe. It's huge to us. And we will come back very shortly with a second episode discussing the crazy, crazy, crazy rumors and the BS being promoted on certain channels. All right. Take care. God bless.